Hey everyone, welcome back. Tonight we're heading deep into the snow-covered wilderness to meet something ancient, something hungry. I hope you're warm and comfy because tonight's story is cold, cruel, and horrifying. We're talking about the Wendigo. The first frost came early that year. By mid-October, the sky was already white in the mornings, and the breath of the trees came out in fog. Birds left early, the wind sharpened. And in the Cree settlements along the Athabasca River, people spoke little, their eyes turned to the forest. Swift Runner had seen worse winters, or so he believed. He was a large man, quiet but capable. A father, a guide, a tracker. He had worked with the Mounties before, led them across terrain that would break lesser men. When he spoke, others listened. That winter, he made a decision. Take his family inland, away from the settlements, deeper into the forest where they could trap, hunt, and wait out the cold on their own terms. It was meant to be temporary. It was meant to be safe. He built the shelter himself, strong walls of pine, furs stacked knee-deep, a lean-to for drying meat, a heavy iron pot for boiling bone broth. He brought his wife, 6 children, his mother-in-law, and his brother. All of them trusted him, and for a while the forest answered back. They caught rabbit, found early deer, the children played near the tree line. His youngest boy, no more than 5, took to tracking birds with a carved stick, dreaming of being a hunter like his father. In the evenings, Swift Runner would sit by the fire, watching embers curl upward like red leaves. The cold was present, but manageable. He sharpened his blades, smoked pipe tobacco, whispered stories to his children about spirits and stars. But on the 12th night, the traps came up empty. First the snow fell, light at first, just enough to dust the shoulders of the trees. Then it thickened, it packed itself into the paths, covered the animal trails, erased movement, sound. The wind stopped shifting, the woods went still, no birds, no tracks, no noise except for the groan of the trees and the slow ache of the wind pressing against the shelter walls, and the hunger began. The wind grew colder, sharper somehow, like it had teeth now. It no longer howled across the trees. It breathed between the bones of the camp. By late November, the forest was still silent. The traps remained empty, the larger game long since vanished. The dried meat ran out, one strip at a time. The firewood had to be burned faster, stacked higher, and Swift Runner's wife, once strong, had started coughing at night. Not badly, not yet. But the sound, it didn't stop. The children stopped asking for food out loud. They just looked at him, watched him with wide eyes while he sipped broth made from boiled pine needles and melted snow. They were waiting for him to fix it, but he had nothing left to fix it with. Swift Runner didn't answer. He couldn't. It came the first night he couldn't sleep. He was sitting by the embers, staring into them like they might offer an answer. His fingers were shaking, not from cold, but from something deeper, like the body trying to scream from the inside. And then he heard it, a voice. Not outside, not in the woods. Inside the walls, inside the fire, inside his breath. At first it sounded like his own voice, reflected back to him. Quiet. Familiar. There will be no food tomorrow. He blinked, rubbed his eyes. Nothing, just the crackling of the fire. But then again, you should have planned better. They're looking at you like it's your fault. The next morning, his youngest asked if there would be rabbit today. Instead, he walked past the traps again, found them frozen open, undisturbed. His brother was too weak to join him. His mother-in-law had taken to sitting with her back to the wall, whispering prayers no one recognized. By evening, the wind returned. It howled, and the trees swayed like something heavy was leaning against them, passing unseen. That night, the voice came again. He sat by the fire and stared at the knife beside his boot. The blade reflected the flames, steady and sharp. And for just a moment, he felt warm. The next morning, the wind had died, but the cold had not. The shelter walls creaked with the weight of snow. Inside, breath hung in the air like smoke, unmoving. The fire hadn't gone out, but it was struggling. Swift Runner's wife didn't wake. Her lips were pale, her fingers blue at the tips. He sat beside her for a long time. No tears, no words, just the quiet sound of chewing. He looked up. His youngest daughter was gnawing on leather, her own bootstrap, too young to know what else to do with her hunger. That was the moment he felt it. Not fear, not grief. The presence. It filled the room like a second cold, one that didn't touch the skin, only the spirit. The shadows in the corners grew taller. The walls narrowed. And in the place where the fire met the dark, something moved. It didn't speak with words this time. It showed him things, a vision, not a memory, but a promise. A world without hunger. A bellyful, warmth inside, the strength to save the rest, if he gave in. And then the shape stepped forward, thin, unnaturally tall. Its skin was stretched tight over its bones, pale as bone dust. Its mouth hung open, not to scream, but to breathe. And as it inhaled, he felt his own chest tighten. It didn't ask for permission. It simply leaned in and exhaled. He didn't remember reaching for the knife. He only remembered the warmth that came after. The fire burned brighter. The walls felt farther away again. The children huddled close. His hands moved with purpose. His wife, his love, was gone. But her body could save the others, and in the shadows, the creature watched. It said nothing. It only smiled. The snow didn't stop falling. Not once. Not even when he closed her eyes. Not even when the knife made the first cut. The flakes drifted outside like nothing had changed. Like the world had been frozen in that moment, content to let him become something else. He told himself it was mercy. The others were still alive, still watching. They didn't cry. They didn't speak. They just shivered and waited. The meat was shared in silence. No one questioned it. They chewed, swallowed, fell asleep faster than they had in days. But Swift Runner didn't sleep. He sat by the fire with the bones, cracked one open, listened to it snap. And in that moment, just under the sound of the marrow leaking out, he heard breathing. Not from the children, not from himself, from behind him. He didn't turn around, didn't need to. The Wendigo no longer lingered in the corners. It walked beside him now, inside him. Its breath was his own, its hunger, his thoughts. It showed him things at night. The old woman, weak, slowing them down. The boy, coughing through sleep, becoming a burden. The forest, frozen still. There would be no more game, no more hope, only fire, flesh, and him. One by one, the others vanished. Each night, one less voice in the shelter. Each morning, the fire burned a little brighter. The creature never spoke again. It didn't have to. It had already eaten. When the thaw came, and the trees began to weep their frost, Swift Runner walked out of the woods alone. He was strong again. His face was full. He knocked on the doors of a mission school, said his family had died in the cold, that he'd buried them as best he could. But there was something in his eyes the priests didn't like. Too still, too calm. They sent word to Fort Saskatchewan, and the Mounties remembered him. The guards at Fort Saskatchewan had seen their share of criminals. Thieves, drunks, murderers. But when they brought Swift Runner in, shackled and silent, no one spoke. He didn't resist, didn't cry, didn't ask why. He confessed, calmly, clearly, and without hesitation. He described what had happened in the woods, the starvation, the voices, the fire, the bones, the warmth, the way the Wendigo stood over him, silent and tall, until it no longer needed to. "It got inside me," he said. The courtroom was packed. People wanted to see the man who had fed on his family, the man who said it wasn't madness, but something else, a spirit, a hunger, a curse. Some said he was lying to escape guilt. Others whispered the word Wendigo like it might summon something in the dark corners of the room. Witnesses wept. Doctors debated. Elders sat stone-faced. But Swift Runner never changed. He answered every question with a clear voice, his eyes never drifting, his hands still. When asked if he regretted what he had done, he simply said, "I did what the cold asked of me." The sun was out, the snow had melted, children were playing in the distance, but the air still felt heavy. He walked to the scaffold on his own without prompting. When asked for final words, he looked at the crowd, the priest, the trees behind them, and said nothing. He didn't need to. The silence around him said enough. When the trapdoor dropped, the sound echoed. Whatever really happened out there, one thing's clear. Something changed in him. Was it madness? Or something older, something waiting in the cold? Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you're into stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.